The Pittsburgh Steelers have officially secured Aaron Rodgers as their starting quarterback for the 2025 season, bringing a long-running saga to a close and giving the franchise a definitive direction heading into the new year. While that major domino has now fallen into place, the front office in Pittsburgh is far from finished. If anything, locking in a quarterback like Rodgers, an aging but still dangerous four-time MVP with championship pedigree, has only heightened the urgency to surround him with the necessary weapons to compete in a stacked AFC. The Steelers, long known for building through defense and developing talent rather than making splashy moves, have signaled a rare shift in approach. They are aggressively on the hunt for another elite pass catcher, and their targets so far make it clear that they're not content with merely hoping things fall into place. In recent days, the team has been tied to multiple trade rumors. The most prominent name was Miami Dolphins tight end Jonnu Smith, who just earned his first Pro Bowl nod after a career year in South Beach. Though Miami hasn't indicated strong interest in dealing him, insiders have reported that Pittsburgh made exploratory calls. Smith, who is entering a contract year and expected to seek a pay raise, has prior experience with Arthur Smith, the Steelers' new offensive coordinator. That connection, forged in Tennessee and later in Atlanta, has naturally fueled the speculation. However, it appears that Pittsburgh's ambitions don't stop there. According to several league sources, the Steelers also reached out to the New Orleans Saints to inquire about wide receiver Chris Olave, one of the more dynamic young wideouts in the league. That potential deal seems more complicated due to Olave's age, production, and the Saints' high valuation of him. Nevertheless, the fact that Pittsburgh even explored the possibility is telling. And now comes the most recent, and perhaps most intriguing, development. According to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, the Steelers have officially contacted the Atlanta Falcons to discuss a trade for tight end Kyle Pitts. Rappaport revealed this on Good Morning Football, adding another layer to the Steelers' ongoing offensive reshaping. He noted that Pittsburgh has been eyeing not just receivers but tight ends as well, and Kyle Pitts' name was specifically brought up in those internal and external conversations. The Steelers, it seems, are looking to add not just depth or insurance, but a real difference-maker who could transform the way their offense operates. Kyle Pitts, of course, is no ordinary tight end. Drafted 4th overall in the 2021 NFL Draft, Pitts was immediately viewed as a generational talent, more wide receiver than traditional tight end, with elite athleticism, strong hands, and a rare ability to stretch the field vertically from the middle. He was named a Pro Bowler as a rookie and amassed over 1,000 yards in his first season, an unheard-of accomplishment for someone at his position. However, Pitt's career has since hit a few bumps, with injuries and inconsistent usage contributing to a relative downturn in production. Last season, he caught just 47 passes, prompting questions about whether his skill set was being properly utilized in Atlanta. Enter Arthur Smith, the very man who coached Pitts in Atlanta and is now tasked with orchestrating Pittsburgh's offensive attack. Smith's time with the Falcons was rocky, and many critics pointed to his deployment of Pitts as a major flaw. However, Smith has repeatedly defended his approach and maintained that Pitts remains one of the most gifted players he's ever worked with. That familiarity may be exactly why Pittsburgh is interested in rekindling the connection in a new environment, one that now includes Rodgers under center and a renewed sense of urgency to compete at a high level. What's particularly interesting about this pursuit is how it reflects a philosophical change in Pittsburgh. The Steelers already have Pat Freiermuth, one of the better young tight ends in the league, and they also drafted the towering Darnell Washington, who is expected to develop into a powerful blocker with red zone upside. On paper, there doesn't appear to be a glaring need for another tight end. But Pittsburgh's interest in Pitts, and previously in Jonnu Smith, suggests that they don't see these players merely as traditional inline options. Instead, they may view them as hybrid weapons, capable of lining up in the slot, splitting out wide, and attacking defenses in more creative ways. In fact, using Pitts more as a slot receiver than a conventional tight end would make sense for a team that just traded away George Pickens and is now relying on a less than intimidating receiving core behind DK Metcalf. With Calvin Austin III, veteran Robert Woods, and rookie Roman Wilson competing for secondary roles, Adding a unique talent like Pitts would not only boost the overall ceiling of the offense but also allow for diverse alignments and matchup advantages that Pittsburgh simply doesn't have at the moment. This kind of move would also speak volumes about how Pittsburgh intends to manage Rodgers' final years. At 41 years old, Rodgers doesn't have time to wait for rookie receivers to develop or for a makeshift offense to figure itself out mid-season. He needs polished weapons, explosive athletes, and dependable targets who can win matchups and create separation, especially as his mobility continues to decline. Rodgers may still have one of the sharpest minds and quickest releases in football, but his ability to improvise outside of structure is no longer what it once was. That places even more importance on route timing, spacing, and execution. Pitts, for all his perceived struggles in Atlanta, still has the tools to be an elite separator and yards after catch threat. Of course, pulling off a trade for someone like Pitts won't be easy or cheap. He's still on his rookie contract, making him more affordable than a veteran with similar production, but he also carries a high draft pedigree that will raise Atlanta's asking price. It's unclear what the Falcons would demand in return, but it likely starts with a day 2 pick and perhaps an additional player or conditional future selection. For Pittsburgh, the question becomes how much they are willing to invest in maximizing this current window. That window, though narrow, is very real. The Steelers have not won a playoff game since the 2016 season, and they've been stuck in a cycle of mediocrity ever since the twilight of Ben Roethlisberger's career. The addition of Rodgers breaks that pattern and provides an opportunity to swing big. Signing DK Metcalf was the first step. Pursuing Pitts could be the next. Internally, there will be decisions to make. Freiermuth's role would likely remain secure, given his rapport with Rodgers and his versatility. But Darnell Washington might find himself with limited snaps if Pitts arrives, particularly in an offense that doesn't typically feature 3 tight ends. However, with Arthur Smith at the helm, who once fielded offenses with heavy tight end usage in Tennessee, it's possible that all 3 could carve out meaningful roles, especially if Pitts operates more like a big slot receiver. Another layer to consider is how such a move would affect team chemistry and locker room dynamics. Pitts is a player with superstar potential, but he's also someone who has voiced frustration in the past about his usage and lack of production. Bringing him into a new system with high expectations will require clear communication, proper role definition, and a willingness to adapt. Fortunately for Pittsburgh, Rodgers has always been a willing collaborator when it comes to offensive design, and his input on how to best use a player like Pitts could prove invaluable. If nothing else, the Steelers' pursuit of Pitts, alongside reported inquiries into Jonnu Smith and Chris Olave, confirms that the front office is being aggressive. They are no longer playing it safe, waiting for development or banking solely on culture. They're in go mode. And in today's NFL, where windows close quickly and opportunities vanish overnight, that may be the only approach that makes sense. Whether or not the trade materializes remains to be seen. The NFL is unpredictable, and trades often fall apart over contract details, compensation demands, or simply changes in organizational direction. But what's undeniable is that the Steelers are active, motivated, and very much in pursuit of offensive reinforcements. Their fans should be energized. After years of being told to be patient, to trust the process, and to value incremental growth, the Steelers are now signaling something different. They believe they can win now. And they're moving like a team that intends to do just that.